How dare you not give up your house for me? This was quite a few years ago, but when my wife and I first got together, but before we tied the knot, we got kicked out of our rental because our crappy landlord didn't want to renovate after we found black mold in our house. We ended up living with my mother-in-law for around 6 to 8 months. My wife was working at Walmart at the time, and all of her checks went towards a car payment that she had before we were together, and childcare for my daughter from a previous relationship. Since I had no rent and very few other bills at the time, I had saved up a healthy chunk of change pretty quickly as the assistant manager of a fast food joint. Between that and my already healthy savings, we had around $15K saved up, which was more than enough for a down payment on the house at the time. So we decided to start looking. Sorry if this seems like unnecessary background information, but it sets the stage for our choosing beggar. So at this point, we were living quite literally in her mom's basement, sharing a room with our 2 cats, and the house with the mother-in-law who was constantly complaining about our parenting. Part of the reason I saved up so quickly is that I regularly picked up extra shift just to avoid going home. So needless to say, we were very enthusiastic in looking for a new house. Now cue the choosing beggar. She was a friend of my wife's from high school, and I think she had at least 2 or 3 kids before graduation and was on her 3rd or 4th baby daddy. 6 kids from at least 3 or 4 different fathers or something along those lines. Well, apparently she had seen my wife's post on Facebook about house hunting and reached out to my wife asking for some financial assistance with some groceries and bills. So my wife, being the kind person she is, offered to take her out grocery shopping for some necessities. And what did the choosing beggar respond? No, that's not what I need. I need $5,000 to pay these lawyers and medical bills. I know you have it since you've been talking about buying a new house. My wife, of course, told her flat out no. Thankfully, since our finances were still separate at the time, she was able to use the excuse that it was, quote, not even her money, to get the choosing beggar off her back. How she kept saying how she was good for it and she would pay us back before we even had a down payment, and yeah, right. Yeah, OP, right? Oh my goodness, why would you lend $5,000 to somebody you barely know from high school? Like, I know you're suffering and going through it, but geez, that's a lot to ask from somebody. Especially when you don't just have the $5,000 just lying around for nothing. Like, you want to buy a new house. It's not just sitting there just wasting away. Like, you have plans to use it. Also, I really think your wife did a really good job at just shooing her away. Like, she's super nice, and I'm glad that she offered to buy them groceries, but then she cut it off when they were trying to take advantage of her niceness.
My choosing beggar friend was pissing off the whole friend group by being a complete mooch during a trip. Background. My friend group has a choosing beggar that we'll call Mooch for the purpose of this story. She has a habit of never paying for anything and relying on the group to pay for all activities or meals. I got sick of this after an incident happened a month ago. I never confronted her, just stopped hanging out with the group when she was invited. We're all seniors in high school. All of my friends seem to think that Mooch isn't that bad, so they weren't really wanting to ice her out for me, which is totally understandable. But unfortunately, this means that I stopped hanging out with most of my friends. That is, until last week. My friends had planned a short spring break trip to Mexico. I didn't go because Mooch was invited. I even warned them that Mooch was going to make it miserable, but no one listens to me. And shocker to everyone except for me, the trip was awful. She didn't pay for a single thing. She still owes people her portion of the Airbnb and gas money for the drive. Additionally, she had a sour mood anytime plans didn't go her way. For example, the group wants to go to the markets, Mooch wants to go rent a boat. Majority rules they go to the market, Mooch has a giant frown, and makes sure everyone is aware that she's having a bad time. One night, everyone went clubbing. She got tired and wanted to go home, but no one else wanted to go with her. She was waiting around with her giant frown, clearly wanting someone to leave with her so she didn't have to pay for the Uber. She finally orders an Uber for herself, and after the Uber arrives, 2 girls decide that they actually are tired too, and so they take the Uber with her. She had the audacity to Venmo request them money for the Uber after having not paid for anything else the entire trip. And one of the girls that she Venmo requests was the one that actually paid for the Airbnb, and still she had not paid her back for. For the record, everyone else took turns paying for Ubers. No one Venmo requested each other for that, and this was the first and only Uber Mooch ever paid for. That girl immediately starts a group chat with a couple of people on the trip and me, with my favorite thing to hear, OMG, OP, you were right. Then I got to sit back and just watch as everyone word vomits to me everything terrible that happened on the trip. So it sounds like these 5 people plus me is done with her. Not sure how the rest of the group feels, but at least I have 5 people I can hang out with regularly again. OP, I'm glad that your friends came to their senses and realized that Mooch was a bad friend. It sucks that you couldn't go on the trip because of her, but at least your friends now see why she's a terrible friend.
Choosing beggar brother demands thousands of dollars of catered food for a wedding for free. My jerk brother dropped a bomb on us on Christmas that he's finally marrying his longtime girlfriend. Since he lost all of his inheritance, mostly stocks that we received when we turned 18 on cryptocurrency, he's currently flat broke. So he's having everybody in the family cover certain expenses. Since I worked for years in fancy restaurants, including as a sous for James Beard, an award-winning chef, I get to cover the meal. After pressure from my parents, I relent. This morning, he calls and tells me what he wanted. People attending the wedding? 250 invites, all with +1s allowed. Cocktail hour with tray passed hors d'oeuvres. He's still working on what that will entail. The main course, plated, not buffet style, of course, beef dish. Filet mignon served with Yorkshire pudding and roasted asparagus. Poultry dish, red currant glazed duck breast with fondant potatoes and grilled Brussels sprouts. Vegetable dish, chickpea bulgazi with cauliflower pasta and mushroom gratin. And for dessert, we have a collection of choux pastries, other pastries, and mini cheesecakes. And to make matters worse, the kitchen rental at the venue is $1,000, which includes the cleaning fee, but not all the cookware and utensils. I'll have to pay for additional cooks, servers, bartenders, busing staff, and the servingware. I am beyond livid. What's more frustrating is my parents have always babied him, and so when I called to let them know that I wasn't going to do that, not if he's going to be demanding all this stuff when it's actually for free, I was told that I should call up my restaurant contacts and see if they'd be willing to donate their time or just ingredients. Update. My parents had a heart-to-heart with him after discovering that he's been taking money from other relatives as well for a few years. They gave him the option of not taking any money for the wedding, and they could pay for the courses so he can learn how to be more responsible with his money. Or they could put an undisclosed amount of money in an account and hire a wedding planner who can use that money from that account, and they would cut off all contact with him. There was apparently a lot of crying on both sides, but ultimately he decided to just take the cash. We were told to no longer help him out financially, and they recommended not contacting him either. Is there a word for feeling happy, sad, relieved, and disappointed all at the same time? Final update. It's been a wild few weeks. I learned that the trust my brother received was revoked by my parents a long time ago. In its place, they gave him a small allowance that he could still afford to live, which they also stopped. The reason? As many of you guys pointed out, it turns out my brother had a serious addiction problem. And when he said he was going to the Malibu Four Seasons or headed to the Courtney Love Dance Festival, he was actually checking into rehab. He called me last week to make amends because he's going back into rehab, and it's a requirement that you put to rest any hard feelings before checking in. We did nothing but argue. First, he insisted that the food cost wouldn't be in the tens of thousands because he knows it only costs $1 or $2 per plate, and all the extra cost is nothing but markup. Something he didn't let go of. Second, he couldn't understand why I would think that there's 500 people coming when he clearly stated that there's only 250 people invited, each with a +1. Since any reasonable person would know that meant there are only 125 invitees who have the option of a +1. Lastly, he absolutely despises my parents and everything they represent. The only reason he took the money was because he wanted to hurt them. By the way, the only reason they offered the money for the wedding at all was because they were very Catholic, and they wanted him to have at least a proper Catholic service. It's been very eye-opening to know that there are a lot of hidden skeletons in the family that have been kept hidden so we appear, quote, normal. Wow, OP, that is insanity. I can't believe your brother was broke and your parents are just trying to hide it from everybody. Not just broke, but has a huge substance addiction problem. I hope your brother really gets help, and I hope he tries to make amends with everybody, but it doesn't sound like he's headed that way. However, everybody can change, and hopefully this time around in rehab he actually gets some help and follows through the program. But can we talk just for a second about how this man thought it was going to be $1 or $2 for filet mignon steak dinners? Are you crazy? Just market inflation? Oh, you're just going to blame it on that? Like your brother has the hookup on secret like discount filet? Get out of here. Free cake is not good enough. So this happened last week. A cake store was giving away free slices of cake for their 1-year anniversary in one of their stores. I saw the post very late, like in half an hour before they would close, so I went and tried to get one slice. I enter, I ask for a slice, and they tell me there's only a few slices left. The cake was very simple, vanilla bread and frosting, but free cake is free cake, right? I took my slice, and before going on my way, a guy came up to me and asked for the free slices. The employee points to the free cake, and the guy immediately says, "No, I want one of those slices," and points to the fridge where there are all the slices that they sell regularly. Chocolate, tiramisu, red velvet, etc. Me and the employee roll our eyes and start walking away. The choosing beggar starts to say some excuse about why he deserves better cakes. Not an epic ending, but at least I got free cake. I know this is choosing beggars and this is kind of the basis of the subreddit, but how could you get mad at something being free? Like, free is the best thing in the world. You don't have to give anything, you don't have to drop anything off, you don't have to do anything favors, just get it. Just go grab it. Just take it from somebody. Just go take it. And for the love of God, please don't cry about it. Free is a favor for you.
So this one is going to be extremely short, but satisfying. When my son had grown out of his baby toys, most never opened because I have more sisters and aunts than you can poke a stick at, my wife bagged up about $500 worth of new and used toys and posted them on a local Facebook group for $20. A woman had hit the sold button and got our address. When she arrived, she tried to haggle with my wife down to $10, and my wife simply replied, "Are you serious? This is hundreds of dollars worth of toys, and some of them aren't even out of the packaging. You can leave. I'm donating them now instead." I'm told the woman was furious, but left in a huff. Honestly, OP, donating the toys would be way worth it instead of trying to deal with this woman. I wasn't sure why she was trying to haggle 500 worth of toys for $20 to $10, but people in the comments are saying that she probably would have sold them online, and that's probably not wrong.
If you've gotten this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. If you really enjoy our content, please like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.